All right, good morning. So this presentation is for discipline in the secondary classroom, but it also has a second purpose, which is I'm doing research for my final capstone project where I want to look at teacher self-efficacy. And teacher self-efficacy is their belief in their own abilities. So in this case, it's their belief in their abilities to affect classroom management in their classroom. We're going to use as the source of today's presentation the book Discipline in the Secondary Classroom, which we have seen previous presentations from the teacher leader group about. And so I'm going to go into a quick review of what we've seen in the previous sessions. And then we're going to do a deeper dive into some practical applications of launching your classroom management plan and using your classroom management plan daily, weekly, throughout the year in your classroom. First, we're going to do a survey where we get to see where our current self-efficacy or our beliefs are right now regarding our classroom management. And then afterwards, after the final presentation, then I'm going to have you fill out the survey again and see if you have had any changes or impact of this presentation on your self-efficacy. So on the second slide of the presentation, you will find the link to the survey for the self-efficacy. So if you could go ahead and fill that out, that'd be great. There are, I believe, 10 questions that are a Likert scale. So they give me an idea of, just to what extent you believe in certain beliefs about classroom management. And then there are some qualitative questions I have where we can see, all right, so what is some of your thinking behind your beliefs? So we're going to do that first. And how have you guys done on the survey?
I finished it.
Okay.
Yep, all done.
All right. So to review our first session from Discipline in the Secondary Classroom. So the Stoic framework, it's something that they went over for us, but I want to just take a real quick review because the more I've spent time reflecting and diving into that book, the better I've understood this. So you can even see my book is now all wrinkled because I've actually spent a lot of time on it this summer. There's actually a lot of stuff that you can find in the book, and I really do believe it'll help us out. So the S is for the structure for success. And this is really, the S is all about your work before you go into the classroom. The S is where you as the teacher, you think back to when you first decided to become a teacher, when you went to your first class on methods in the classroom. So when you first really thought about becoming a teacher, how you envisioned what your classroom would look like. That's all in that one S. So it's a huge part of you. It's your self-reflection. It's what do you want to see when you walk into the room? What do you want to see when the students walk out of the room? What do you want to see when you're teaching? What do you want to see when the students are supposed to be doing practice work? What do you want to see when students are taking a test? What do you want to see when students are reviewing? I think we take a lot of that for granted. But for instance, I like to tease other teachers, but when I give a test, one of my expectations is nobody's going to raise their hand. Like that, why is your hand in the air? I handed you the test, you're working, you know I'm not going to help you on the day of the test day, so why is your hand in the air? Well, what Discipline in the Secondary Classroom wants us to realize is just because that's how I, Mr. Noble, visualize a test, that may not be the way you visualize a test. So for instance, one of my good friends, Mr. Lager, he doesn't envision tests that way. So when he and I talked, he's like, well, no, I actually am excited when students raise their hands because it means that they have thought about something I taught, but they need a reminder or a refresher. I'm not going to tell them how to do the problem, but I might remind them of the processes. Now, if you can't tell, I teach at a different age level than Mr. Lager. So to me, that's just helping a high schooler too much. But to him, that's how you help a middle schooler make that transition between getting help from the teacher and doing it on your own. So that is what the letter S is. That letter S is all of the things. They talk about the patterns, the procedures, the expectations for students and staff. That's everything you want to visualize. So for instance, I would put on my classroom management plan on the day of the test, you're going to hear me say, I'm sorry, I don't teach math. I don't understand anything on that page. I can't help you today. Because that's my joking way of saying, I'm not helping you on a test or quiz. Those are for you to show me what you know. It's okay if you don't know, but I need to know what you know and don't know, so I'm not going to help you on the day of a test or quiz. So I would put that in my classroom management plan, because students, if they don't know which teachers will give help and which teachers won't, well, then that's hard on them, and they forget, and they oh, well, wait, oh, I forgot, so and so, Mr. Lager was fine with us asking a few things. So that is the purpose of the letter S on the Stoic, is so that teachers really reflect on how they want their classroom to look. I'll throw at you, because I know that one of you watching has coached some kids sports. If you're asked to coach a kids little league team or your daughter's softball team, we have completely different expectations of what that's going to look like. You may write a practice plan for your daughter's softball practice. I may just show up and already have a plan in my head. I may just expect the girl should know the first thing they should do is maybe stretch it out a little bit, and then they can play catch. But what should playing catch look like? So for instance, the very first time I went to baseball practice, playing catch literally just meant, yep, we're just throwing back and forth. But then as I got older, I realized, well, wait, actually playing catch should include what I call the wrist flip drill. So you hold your elbow in place and you just flip that wrist. And that's not what everyone does in their practice plan. And so, for instance, those of you listening online, since you can't see me, would you understand what I mean by the wrist flip drill?
To a sense, yes.
All right. So see, that's something that we might make an assumption of. If I tell the team, hey, I want everyone to practice the wrist flip drill, I may make the assumption, oh, you all know what it means. Now, if I'm coaching a 14U travel team, they probably all do know what it means. But if I'm taking over a 10U rec ball team, they are not going to have any clue what the wrist flip drill means. And so I'm going to have to teach them exactly what I mean by wrist flip drill. I'm going to have to show them even, this is kind of funny, the first time you play catch with a rec ball team, I'm not kidding you, you would have kids perpendicular to each other. Like, you would have to teach them what I mean by playing catch, like parallel lines, because that way kids don't get hurt by randomly throwing balls. And it's actually really funny, but that's because I've taught myself to have a sense of humor when it comes to that, because I know that the kids don't really know what we mean by play catch and how to do it safely. Because then you have the kids, picture this, where one of the kid overthrows the other kid. So the kid runs and gets the ball, and what do they do the moment they pick up that ball? They
throw it.
Yeah, they turn around and they throw it from 40 yards away. And let's be honest, they're 10 years old. Are they going to be very accurate? No. So now you have balls zigzagging and crisscrossing each other, and you have kids almost getting hurt. And so that's the mindset I want us to take to classroom management. We want to think about all of those things before they happen and plan for it. All right? And that is a mindset change, because I don't know about you guys, but when I went to college and I started taking my classes to become a math teacher, it was about content. Our lesson plans are about content. High school teachers are all about content. And we know our content is difficult and rigorous. And we see articles all over the nation. Math scores need to go up. Less and less kids are qualifying for college math. Less kids are passing the SAT, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's all this pressure on us to raise math scores. So we think about math content, and I think we're good at math. Like, I believe that, if you're an English teacher, you're pretty darn good at English. If you're a history teacher, you're pretty darn good at history. So sometimes we got to take a step back and realize we need to spend at least as much, and in my opinion, maybe more, time planning for classroom management, because we're pretty good at our content area. I'm not saying we don't plan for our content area. Of course we do. But it's just as important to plan for, what are you going to do the first time a kid, 30 minutes into class, you go, why haven't you written anything down? And they go, I don't have a pencil. And I know what I used to do. I'd be like, are you out of your mind? We're 30 minutes in, you haven't said a word to me. But you know what? I didn't have a procedure in place where, I did, don't get me wrong, I told the students there's pencils on my desk. All you got to do is ask and borrow one, or come up and borrow one. But you know what? I still need to keep reviewing those expectations and things. And that's the the T in the Stoic, is you got to teach that to the kids. All right? You got to teach that to them. And see, I've already forgotten to use my slides. So session 1 was about the S for success. All right, and we're going to talk about the actual classroom management plans.
Welcome to art class. I'm so excited to have you here this semester.
All right, session 2 is about teaching that we had. Session 2 was teaching students to how to meet those expectations. And so we've got to spend the time to actually teach it to them. We can't just say, you should know better than to sit in class for a half an hour and not raise your hand. All right. I would say that, I mean, I remember doing this. My first day, I'd probably pick out a student around the room who I'm sure will have a pencil, like try not to pick on the ones that might not. You know, they look very put together. They have a backpack already full of supplies. And you might go, you know, what would you do if you came into class without a pencil? Like pretend you did, and they'd be like, well, I would, and exactly. And so you teach it through to the students. You make it fun. You make it, you know, you even show them like what not to do. I would have the student walk directly in front of me, like purposely kind of stand in front of me, do something dumb, and then pick up the pencil from my desk. And so to say, now don't do it that way. Like it's not about you getting to make a disruption of the class, but you've got to take care of your pencil. You got to get to that desk, get a pencil, get back to your seat so you can write down things, so that you can remember things. And then even that, why do we have to take notes? Explain your rationale to the students. All right? Be positive. Don't just be like, well, you're not going to remember anything. You're not going to do well in the test. You're going to fail if you don't take notes. That's so negative. It's like, tell them about the research. The research, and by the way, I make up 99% of the research I tell the students. Because what I would say to them is probably something like this. And I know there is actual research out there. I just don't remember the numbers right now. Something like kids only remember 30% of what they see, but they remember 50% of what they write down and 70% of the stuff that they write down and talk about. Okay? And you guys that are watching, you probably like, no, well, that's not the exact numbers. I know it's not. But the kids don't know the exact numbers. And the whole point is I'm trying to show them the positive. I'm trying to show them you are going to be successful if you write down what I say, if you talk about what I say with me, like conversate, and I teach them that's the expectations and that's how to be successful. The main purpose of our activity soon coming up is to teach CHAMPS and ACHIEVE. CHAMPS and ACHIEVE are two different acronyms with cool little handouts and things for teachers to fill out where they can teach the kids their expectations. And honestly, I'm not going to lie, teach yourself your expectations during each different routine and procedure during class. So that, like, for instance, for me, one of the ones that I did earlier is the bell ringer. What is my expectation during the bell ringer? Do kids talk to each other during the bell ringer? Do they wander around the room during the bell ringer? That's all in CHAMPS and ACHIEVE. So that's what the purpose of those two. And then we got to demonstrate it. Like I was saying earlier with the students borrowing the pencil. I would absolutely have students demonstrate that. One of the ones that I didn't know I had to teach kids is what to do when there's subs. Because I just assumed when there's a sub, the students would know, oh, well, okay, so you're going to leave us work to do. Once we get the work done, it'll be fine. I didn't realize the kids have a different view of subs than I do. See, I always, when I was in school, I pictured a sub as a great time to catch up on work. Because the sub's not going to teach us something new. So therefore, I'm going to use sub days to just work on I'll work on my subject first, whatever class it's in. But then I'll work on my English, my history, my math, whatever, get it all caught up, get it done. So that way, having a sub was awesome. It meant getting all my other work from my other classes done so that way I'm caught up. But apparently, I'm a nerd, and that's the only things that nerds do. Because a lot of my students think sub days are days where you try to figure out what you can get away with. So, funniest story, it's funny now, it wasn't funny when it happened. So apparently when we taught in the old building and when I had a sub, my students in calculus thought it'd be really funny. As soon as they saw there was a sub, one of the students would sneak out, go get Little Caesar's pizza, and then the other students in the room would distract the teacher because I had windows that opened into a parking lot. So that when the student got back with the Little Caesar's pizza, the other students in the room would distract the sub, surround their desk, talk to them, whatever, and then the student would climb in through the window. It was pretty easy to do. Like I said, I was right on the parking lot and the window opened full. Like it was a huge window. And the kid with the pizzas would climb in the window and then they'd eat pizza in class. Did I just hear a hand go up? No. All right. So that is what my students thought a sub meant. I had no idea what was going on. Honestly, my students told me it went on for like 2 or 3 years and I never knew. Because, they passed it on. Kids in calculus the next year would tell other kids like, oh, you got to do this when Mr. Noble has a sub. So, and I didn't find out until one time they got caught And the school actually thought I was sanctioning the behavior. And so I realized, dang, no, not only did I not sanction students leaving campus to go get pizza, I had no idea what was going on. And I didn't even realize I needed to teach students that that's not okay. That you can't just decide, oh, sweet, we have a sub, let's go get away with something. So sub days are days where we absolutely have to teach kids what's to be expected. And so what I teach my classes is, in my class, a sub day means catch up. Catch up on work, catch up on, it's okay to work on other subjects as soon as you get mine done. Like, it's fine. I'm not gonna make you work on math for 50 straight minutes with a sub, but it's a great day to catch up. And that's what I try to teach my classes. And we also have to teach them how we're gonna communicate with families. And all of this can be done through our expectations. And I'm 90% sure almost every teacher has this expectation sheet. This, teaching your class your expectations is similar to a syllabus. It's similar to a classroom management plan, but to me, it's different. So this is mine. So I give out this expectation sheet every single year. It's the first thing I do. So while you all are handing out syllabi on day one or whatever, this is what I go over. All right. And it used to be called, instead of Noble Expectations, I retitled it because the school wanted consistency, and that's great. It used to just be called Noble Rocks. All right. Now, I'm not going to lie. Yes, it's because I wanted the play on words. Hey, Noble rocks, man. We love Noble. Noble's a great teacher. Because originally it was called Noble's Rules. But see, rules are meant to be broken. And this is the exact spiel I give to kids. Noble's rules sound like rules to be broken. But Noble rocks, whoever says rocks are made to be broken? Nobody. So therefore, it was called Noble's Rocks. All right. Now, so the page you're seeing right now is I Will. I always start with that because, see, kids are told all day long, and I'm not going to lie. This is, so for those of you like, oh, well, how'd you always get to be kids' favorite? This is kind of how I get to be kids' favorites. I don't first tell them all the things they need to do. I teach them all the things they should expect about me, so that way they know exactly what they're getting into. All right. Well, who is this Mr. Noble? What do I have to look forward to out here? So right away, now notice, it's kind of a trick though. I said, I will use every minute of every day. Now, doesn't that sound so much better than when you come to class, work from the moment you come in with the bell ringer till you leave with the exit slip? See, that sounds kind of negative and like what they have to do. But see, that's what I mean by this. I'm not going to lie. That is totally what I mean by this. But what I'm putting as is, guys, I don't sit down. Like, every minute of every day is planned. And you may think, oh, we're playing a game at the beginning of class. That's not like real class. Oh, no, it is. I use every minute of every day. It might be in a little bit different style, but I will use every minute of every day. I don't ask them to do busy work. Now, this used to win me a lot of brownie points because back in the 1990s when I started teaching, teachers were known for giving like 35, 40 homework problems every night. And so when I would give the students only like 10 to 15, that got me a lot of brownie points. And now I feel like, moods in teaching have changed. Fewer teachers give that 30 to 40 problems of homework a night. So therefore, what do I mean by busy work though? It's still, I will not give a student more practice than they need, but I also won't give students less practice than they need to feel confident. So that's what I mean by I'm not going to give busy work. And I teach them this. Everything I'm saying to you, I say to them. And sometimes, and you might say, Mr. Noble, you sound like a salesman. Exactly. That's what a classroom management plan is all about. It's about selling yourself to the kids so that they know exactly what to expect, and you want them to buy into you. All right, we're going to get into that, but don't you want kids that want to be in your class? I mean, I know they don't want to be in math. I'm not a fool. All right, I get that they think math is boring or whatever. High school is very rigid and But you know what? That's why I want to sell them more. All right, nobody wants to go buy a Kia Solero. All right, nobody wants that. We all want McLarens. So if the kids are going to drive around a Kia, you've got to sell them on a Kia. Okay. And I go over my expectations. All right. Some of these are intended to be a lot of fun. So like make learning and class time fun. I forget now. I'm getting old. But I'll have something interesting right there. Where like maybe I'll have a student demonstrate something different. I'm trying to remember what I used to do that. But the Reach New Heights, I know. So I don't know if you've seen the movie Dead Poets Society, but one of my favorite scenes is when Robin Williams has him climb on the desk and they have to, it's about reaching a new perspective. First, he climbs on his desk, and I absolutely climb on my desk. And I stand on my desk, and I tell them it's about reaching new heights. All right, and that's how I reach new heights. And I kid you not, in this building, all right, in the new high school, I had a student who was 6'11" when he made it to the NBA, or I think maybe he went to Europe. They listed him as 7'1", but he was 6'11". And yes, his head was actually right up against that ceiling. All right, so it's a lot of fun. Some students won't do it, and I try to convince them, but I also say, you know what, that's your right. Some people aren't ready to reach new heights yet. All right, but that's some of the things I do. So that's what we mean by teaching expectations. And then, of course, we still have to talk to them about the things that they'll do. All right, I can't teach you if you're not here. So mind and body. So that's my way of but look how I say mind and body. That's my way of saying it's not just good enough to sit in my room. Because I would always get kids who go like, Mr. Noble, why am I failing? I'm like, because you don't do anything? Like, well, I'm here every day. Yeah, so your body's here. I'm going to need your mind here. The beyond the time, don't bang the door. Now that's a funny story just because I've told it now I feel like so many times, and that's in my classroom management plan that we'll see. But I don't know about you guys. We all have triggers we forget about. That's my trigger. Okay? It is. And so for those of you listening online, I'm just going to give you that sound. I'm going to close that door, and I'll see if it triggers you guys, because it triggers me. So I close my door, and then I get this. And it's like, are you out of your mind? I don't even know why, but that sound, I'm the one who just did it, and I kid you not, the hair on the back of my arms is going up right now. That kills me. I do not like it when people bang on the door. Now, the funny thing is, and one of the cool things about the classroom management plans in this book, they talk about make a different one for your high maintenance class and your low maintenance class. So, of course, Algebra 1, freshman, new to the high school, a lot of energy. I would expect them to bang on the door. So I admit, I had more grace with them. I would be, it's okay. I'll teach them. They're freshmen. We'll get it. But you know what was crazy to me? AP Calculus kids did it. They'd be 5 minutes late. I'm already in the middle of a lesson. It's an AP college course. And suddenly, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, what? You came late to my class and you think it's okay to bang on the door? Look, I am graceful about being late. We're all late. I had plenty of tardies when I was in high school. But you don't bang on the door. But so you know what? I realized if a calc kid did, and they could not believe how angry I got. So I realized I have to teach them, because that's obviously not a global expectation, is that you just don't bang on people's doors. So I teach that to them. And so that's notice my consequences. Visual warning, dad look. That's personal, obviously. Guys, once I became a dad, I got a dad look. And trust me, my children, my daughter just graduated college. My son is about to go to college. And I would always ask them, what was the worst trouble? And they're like, when you give us that look. Literally, my daughter, who I feel like was almost never in trouble, but she thinks she was always in trouble. She's like, Dad, when you gave me that look, I literally felt you killing me. That look was sheer death. And I'm like, really? She's like, oh my gosh, if I was pitching on the mound, she said I mostly used it during softball, and you gave me that look, I wanted to shrivel up and go away. And I'm like, wow, did not realize that had so much effect. So that's much better than saying, all right, Johnny, that's your warning, is I can give you that dad look. So I use the dad look. I had to tell them. I use clever comments, because sometimes they're like, dude, how'd you not know I was mad at you? And they'd be like, well, you kind of joked. I'm like, what did you think that meant when I said, so are we talking about what just happened on the last episode of Sports Center, or are we talking about learning the Pythagorean theorem today? They're like, yeah, I just kind of thought, and I'm like, no. If I use clever comments towards you that are kind of sarcastic, that's my warning. And I had to tell them this, because I thought everyone just knew that's my warning. I'm not going to be that formal teacher. I can't be that formal teacher and be like, that's your first warning. All right. It's just not me. I can't do that. That's not my style. Now, if that's your style, that's great. And kids will learn that style. You just got to tell them that. And so that is, and then my private conversation is always my dead last. I I try to always say like, oh, can I talk to you in the hall? And all the kids know that one usually. But yeah, if I ask you to have a real quick conversation in the hall, then they know that that means I am at my wit's end and we're going to have a talk. So anyway, so this is teaching your expectation. And then down here.
Mr. Noble?
Yes, Mr. Clay.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
What document are you reading off of? I hit the Noble Classroom Expectations link. Is it another one that I'm missing?
No, it's that one. I'm on the back side, the you will. Is my screen not still sharing? Can't you see it?
No, I can't. I mean, I left for a few minutes. Okay.
Is it showing you now?
Yes.
Okay, my bad. I realized I have to tell it which tab to share. That's weird. I don't remember that part. So yeah, that's this document. So this is what I go over with the students. And I'll say.
Okay, now, I don't have that document. Where's it linked to?
All right, sorry. Share this tab instead. So on review session 2, a blue link, Noble Classroom Expectations.
Yeah, I opened that, but that didn't come up. That was something different.
A PDF should pop up.
This was a Google Doc that says Classroom Management Plan, page 1 of 3.
Are you sure you're on the Noble Expectations one and not on the previous slide? Are you on the slide that says review session 2 or the one that says review session 1?
For session 2.
And it's bringing up. Hang on.
Wait, maybe I'm on the wrong one. Hold on, let me double check.
Should be the slide 5 in the slideshow. Noble Classroom Expectations. After T is for teach and O before O is for observe.
It's something different. I'm on the. I clicked on the right one, the wrong one the first time. But it says I need to request access.
See, I thought I changed it to link. Okay. Let me see. No, you're good. Let me see if I can exit full screen. And then expectations. Share. Oh, no, not that. Share. Restricted, does say restricted. Anyone with link. My bad.
That's fine.
All right, now try it again. I changed it to anyone with link.
I know you didn't see in the chat, but I had to leave for a few minutes to help Nick with something. So
no, you're good.
But, thanks.
All right, so try it again because I want you to be able to see it. And sorry, I wasn't sharing. I didn't realize you have to say share this tab instead. See, Google Meets changed a few things. So now my share is it, right?
Yep, I got it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So and then at the bottom, and this is I spelled out warriors. This is where again I personalized it. So my what is a warrior? That I'm about to show you. That's a video. Act like a champion. That's a video. I never came up with the videos for respect or responsibility. So of course, what I would do is always talk about how they're going to say that in the announcements every day. Respect, responsibility, and safety. We are Crete Money. Go Warriors. But this is where I would show the kids different motivational videos. One of the things about positive classroom management versus negative. So I know Klinger and I both came up in the 1980s and 90s. And it was pretty much a huge thing back then. You used what's called punitive classroom management. It was all about create a system of expectations, a system of disciplines. I'm trying to remember the name of this type of classroom management. And the kids simply followed it through. So like I used to get my name written on the board, and then if I got a check mark, I got a detention. And if I got 2 check marks, maybe I'd get a second detention, whatever it was. And it was a clear system of actions and consequences, actions and consequences, actions and consequences. That's not, the research has shown, while that works with some students, that does not work with a high percentage. Positive classroom management works better. So positive classroom management means we need to use motivation. We need to use positivity. Instead of always saying what kids can't do, try to phrase it as what kids can do. And so that's kind of what the purpose of those videos are. If I go back to this. So one of the first videos, I think it is the very first video I will show my students each year, is this one. And I'm not gonna lie, I did not find this first. One of our principals found it and shared it with us. Might have been Riegler, I forget. I'm not gonna show you guys the whole video. People at home, I'm just curious, do you guys see it?
A warrior is a way of life, a way of thinking, a way of being. Carlos Castaneda says we choose only once.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty well-made video, and it just happens to be about our mascot name. So that's why I love this video. The music is catchy, the visuals are catchy, it's got a good message to it.
Look over the video. I can barely hear you.
Every warrior has a code.
All right.
It's
All right, I'll
This
stop
is the
talking.
thread that connects him to all of his warrior brothers and sisters since the beginning of time. Stephen Pressfield asks, how do we find our true calling, our soul companions, our destiny? He answers, in this task, our greatest ally is the warrior ethos. A warrior never hopes, but yet he must have faith. Hope is powerless, useless. The longer we sit in hope, the more time.
And like honestly, I'm
the
gonna pause
universe
this.
gives only.
Every year I change what I talk about. So, because I've seen that video probably 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 times. Like for instance, I love to talk about that. I remember in school, I used to hope that girls would suddenly start liking me. I used to hope that I would literally, my brain would hear something and I'd have it instantly memorized. I used to hope that I would daydream about being good at sports. Like, I'm going to be the starting quarterback on the football team next year. I'm going to throw 100 miles an hour and make the MLB. I used to just sit around and hope for all those things. And so one of the things I love about this video is that it has that cool imagery of that clay dude melting. Hope is powerless, but faith is important. So some years I honestly talk about the difference between hope and faith. Hope is kind of sitting around daydreaming. Faith is working hard toward a goal and having the faith that it's going to pay some sort of positive outcome. And I'm not going to lie to students and say, yeah, so you're going to be the next starting varsity quarterback. Because, one of the nice things is you see these kids in your room. It's day one, but some of them are already wearing maybe a football t-shirt, or maybe they're wearing a volleyball shirt. And you can say, you can go to practice and you're going to dream of spiking and being the best server and acing half your serves, but that's not going to do you any good. And you can even say, well, I have faith that's going to happen. Well, there's a little difference. Faith is going to practice every single day, being on time, working hard, having faith that something positive will come. It may not be that you're going to start on the varsity team. It may be just that you're going to become a good teammate. You're going to learn how to support others who are more physically gifted than you are. All right. Or you could end up being like a Michael Jordan who grew from 5'8" to 6'4" your sophomore year of high school. So you did go from a bench warmer on the freshman team to a starter on the sophomores, starting varsity sophomores. And then, we all know what happened to his career after that. You don't know. All right. So, but faith is that, something good. This may be where I separate, and this is a big story I'm not going to go to. I used to make fun of people in wrestling because I was an unathletic dork. And so I'd be like, yeah, you're just rolling around on the mat with other guys in tights. And it's like, and some kid literally punched me and threw me against the wall. And they're like, don't ever talk about wrestlers again. And I was a chubby nerd. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying. And then of all things, I ended up becoming a wrestler. And then when I became a wrestler, I lost 40 pounds and I ended up winning most improved wrestler. Now, was I the best wrestler on the team? Absolutely not. We had state qualifiers. We even had a state champion my senior year. All right. He was a great wrestler. Was I that? No. I didn't even get out of regionals. But the team recognized me for my hard work and my effort. I had to have faith that wrestling would give me something. Now, even if I hadn't gotten that award, I had the faith because I learned how to do self-discipline. I learned how to weight lift. I learned how to really put your mind to something and if I needed to cut 12 pounds in 3 days, I got it done. All right. I learned how to set goals and make things happen. So I knew I had the faith that something good would come out of hard work. So anyway, that is the purpose of, now I got to figure out how to get back out of this. That is the purpose of my going over my expectations with the students. I'm trying to, I'm just going to stop sharing and start sharing again. Sorry. I knew this was going to happen without a mouse. I had to completely end up closing it.
Oh, man.
The problem is without the escape button, you can hold it down and hope it goes to exit full screen, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. All right, I'm back. Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. All right, there goes the infinite screen. Oops, wrong one. There we go. All right. All right, I'm sharing the correct screen again, right?
Yep.
So that is my expectation day. So, and I do not stop. Just, yes, do I teach my expectations day one? Absolutely. Do I do it day two? Absolutely, because I usually only get through like half of it. It's all throughout the year. And by the way, one of the other ones that notice that they say is commit to and engage in the SEL lessons. We know that the SEL lessons are not always the greatest. So take your time to personalize, individualize, and beef them up. So if you look and you see, all right, this lesson's going to take me maybe 15 minutes, that's a great time. Hey, you know what? Maybe that day is going to be, we're going to play around the world with some multiplication tables. Or maybe that's the day I'm going to teach about positives and negatives and like have some crazy like mindset about it. Maybe that'll even be the day I show a silly YouTube video about like slope guy. Which is really weird and funny, but it's about teaching about slope and rise and run and positive and negative and all this other stuff. But the point is, like, you gotta sell out to the kids that you're not just going through the motions, that you're committed to helping them be successful in your class, and that includes both their behavior as well as their academics. Because they'll read through it if we're not. If they think you're faking it, they're gonna absolutely read through it. So that was our second session, what they were trying to do. This was not in a session. So then the O for observe, they haven't really talked about it with us. That's the whole idea of now you got to get feedback from students, teachers, administrators, parents, instructional coaches on how things are going. So like when I walk through your room, feel free to like be like, hey, I just want to see do the kids truly believe in me? Do my routines go smoothly? All that great stuff. Because then you got to get feedback to know how you can modify it. Nothing is ever finished. I have modified that expectation sheet almost every single year. I noticed on there, it still had Alex on there. We haven't done Alex now in a while, but I promise you, Alex didn't used to be on there, and I had to add it because kids didn't have the right expectations for Alex. So I had to build that up. Look, and I mean, because one of you in here had to use Alex, you know I didn't actually like Alex, and you know I didn't believe in Alex, but it was still on my expectation sheet. The kids never knew I didn't believe in it. They can never know. They thought I loved Alex. They honestly, at the end of the year, like, why do you love this program so much? And maybe, I still don't think I would tell them because the next year I would have Alex again. I would just be like, because it gave you a chance to practice on your own and to really learn what you're ready to learn and not have to learn other stuff. But in my heart, I'm like, but it didn't, because you could have just sat behind your computer and clicked stupid buttons and done nothing. It still required me to sell out for it. All right. That was session 2. That's more in session 2. All right, let me see about what I've missed on here because I know I'm talking. But see, you know what? That's part of my point. A lot of times when you're teaching classroom management and you're teaching, it's okay if you leave your content to teach them about real life. They'll really enjoy it. All right, this top one. See, I'm glad I went back to this. Student perception is so much. If students don't perceive me to be good at classroom management, then no matter how good I am, it's not going to work. If students don't perceive me to know math, they're going to believe I don't know math. And so student perception does matter. And this is where sometimes as teachers, and especially high school teachers, I mean, I used to have a reputation, I don't know where this came from, that I was kind of cocky and that I was like, I thought too much of myself. But that is honestly, I mean, it's really funny because if you honestly knew me, you would know I'm paranoid, I'm a doubter, and I have so many doubts in myself you'd be scared to know. So what I do is to overcome that, I create a persona. I act in a way so the students will believe in me. And that's my goal. I never meant for that act to come across as cocky or arrogant. So then I had to change my act a little bit because in building up this fear of protection of myself, I had accidentally sent out the wrong perception that I thought I was perfect. And so real quick, I'll tell the story of when I really was crushed by it. A girl named Anne, she's on our wall in the front of the building. She was one of our top 10%. She gave her speech and it was glowing and it was so great to me. She picked me as her mentor, and she was going to IUPUI to become a doctor, and I think she is a doctor now, and she was phenomenal. And she said, and Mr. Noble, you've done so much for me, but you're not perfect. And it didn't bother me that she said in front of everybody, I'm not perfect. I mean, okay, I guess a little bit it did, but it was that she thought I was perfect. I know I'm not perfect. I know I make all kinds of mistakes. And so I realized I want the students to perceive that I can help them. That is so, so, so important. But I also need them to perceive that I'm vulnerable and that I make mistakes and that I have to learn and grow as much as they do. So that is so important. Think about when you build your classroom management plan, when you go over your achieve and champs that we'll get to, don't forget to think about what the kids are thinking about you and how they're going to perceive you. Give your students non-contingent attention. If you're a math person like me, you're like, what the heck does that mean? That means it's okay to give kids attention that's not based on what they're doing. So like non-contingent, totally just random. Hey, yo, what's up? Davion, how's your day going? Da da da. Just give him some attention. Give Davion, and Davion Couch is who I pictured when I said that. I mean, it was completely based on I just wanted to have a talk with Davion because I knew he'd talk back with me. I guess that was the only slight contingency is I did pick a student I knew would actually have a conversation. So whereas if I tried that with maybe an Isabella Berry, it would have been a lot more quiet of, hey, Isabella, hope you're having a great day. How's band going? Like I would pick things more based on what I already knew her interests were, so I wouldn't make her feel awkward. But Davion, I knew we could literally talk about anything. Hey, Davion, have you ever watched the show Suits? Whatever. It was just completely non-contingent attention. Guys, the research is clear. We got to do that with students. All right, we got to give them we give them so much, and by the way, this is true with our kids too. You can't just always do it based on what they're doing. I think one of the problems with Elizabeth, I say it that way like she's a bad daughter, but she is so attention seeking. Like she is so goal minded. I'm afraid maybe she got too much attention for reaching goals. And she needed more just non-contingent attention. Hey, Elizabeth, what's up? What are you doing? Hey, what are you binging on Netflix? Hey, isn't it a pretty day outside? What do you think of, just stuff that's not just based on, so what did you think of this class? What are you thinking about your career? Da, 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 all that good stuff. And celebrate success with kids. And I understand some teachers have a different definition of success, so you got to come up with yours. But you know what? Sometimes my definition of success is, you know what, Christina, you just made it through the whole day without interrupting me. Boom! I mean, that is what I'm talking about right there. I mean, really celebrate success with kids. It doesn't matter how big it is. Let them find celebration. Kids don't celebrate enough success. Use goal setting. Now, reflect on rewards-based systems. The book talks about using rewards-based systems. They don't say you have to use them. They don't say not to use them. I use them carefully. All right. High school teachers, I think it's dangerous if we give too many extrinsic rewards. However, it doesn't mean we can't give any. So mine were simple. I would buy the cheapest suckers you can buy. They're called lollies. I think now they're called Smarty Pops. And so they're like Smarties in a sucker. They cost me maybe 10 to 15 cents a sucker. So I get a whole huge jar. And I give them away based on the smallest amount of contingency. But it's not breaking my bank. I'm okay with that. I am not going to give out no homework passes because I don't believe next practice makes perfect and it's important. But they're little things. I bring the math team donuts. Those are little rewards things that are not huge and aren't going to drive me out. Not too much. So reflect on it. Notice how I said reflect on it. You got to figure out what works for you. All right. What worked for me is little ones. And some kids love my suckers, some not so much. All right, we already did the video. It's going to try to do it again. We're just going to skip over it. Boom, boom, boom. All right. The session 3 that we're doing, this was their big one, is how to correct misbehavior. What's funny is I'm going to model this. I'm not going to go over this too much because the whole point is you got to stay positive. And you're going to be like, Noble, I've seen you yell at kids. Absolutely. All right. And when I do, it's mostly in a joking way. Kids need to worry more about when I'm quiet than when I'm loud. But it's not that we're allowing them to misbehave because the school won't punish them or whatever. That's a deficit mindset that we got to stay away from. This idea that, well, the kids can't behave anyway, the school's not going to punish them, so what's the point of even correcting it? No. We still correct it. It's okay to correct it without a consequence behind it. All right, as parents, sometimes we correct behavior without punishing the kid. All right, I mean, it's okay to do that. You know, like my son Luke, all I ever had to do is kind of give him a correction and say, go sit on the stairs. And he was done. Like he would cry and like, oh, I'm so sorry. Da, da, da. He barely needed anything like that. But I still wanted to point it out to him sometimes. Like for instance, he's about to get away to college. This is kind of funny because a couple of you know Luke. And for the first time ever, he came home at 2 a.m. 2 nights ago. And if you knew my wife, you'd be like, she was freaking out all night. I slept through it. I don't know what her problem was. But she's on Life 360. Like, why is he still over at Bassett's house? Blah, blah, blah. And I kid you not, he drove home at 2 a.m. And we knew there was no alcohol involved, but it was the final night before the two of the friends went off to University of Kentucky. And so they were literally having a cry fest and saying their goodbyes before their really cool group of about 5 guys and 4 girls are all separating to go off to college. And so I didn't sweat it, but my wife's like, I can't believe it. It's 2 a.m. It's whatever. And I did have to have a talk with him. Like, Luke, dude, love you. I know you're going to college. 2 a.m. is a little, yeah, no, don't ever do that to mom again. So, you know, and then this is a little scarier one, and we still don't know how to address it with him. So on Life 360, it told us that he went over 100 miles an hour the other day. And he owns a little used sports car that's made to do that, but he's always told us, and he's been very nervous. He's like on the interstate, he barely speeds. And he did it on a road that I trust and all that. But yeah, he didn't tell us he was going out driving. And then his Life 360 warned us about his excessive speed. So, and the only reason, well, I'm worried for a lot of reasons, but he knows the story of when my brother and I did that together. And then my brother rolled the car and we should have been killed. The car rolled over 2 times. We weren't wearing seatbelts and somehow none of us were ejected or hurt in the accident. We did total a car that my brother had to pay the guy back for. It was like $3,000. So anyway, so that's what we mean by, I'm not saying you have a low expectation for the kids and not correct it. You got to figure out a way to correct it, but you got to do it in a positive way. And you can't just like, because my wife's idea is he's grounded until he goes away to college. He's leaving tomorrow. What's the point of that? He wasn't doing something negative like vandalizing or da-da-da. So like address it a different way. You guys can kind of read through these, you know, using our proximity the right way, using redirection, plan ignoring. You're going to see on somebody's classroom management plan. It's not on mine. It's funny. I typed it on this slide, but I didn't put it on my classroom management plan. I absolutely do planned ignoring. You know what? You might want to tell the kids that because you don't want them to think you're just letting it go. But certain things we do let go. So like, for instance, if I notice that Chris is having a slight off-topic conversation while I'm handing out papers, that might be a planned ignoring because I know that he probably won't lose control of it. But if Aiden starts getting out of his desk and jumping up and down and shouting about checkmate and rooks and knights, I'm going to have to step on that one. And the kids might think that's not fair. You let Chris talk about chess, you didn't say a word. But then Aiden starts to say 2 words and you're all up in his grill. I've got to explain to him, yeah, sometimes I plan to ignore certain kids that I know tend to not lose control, and I might be wrong. I might end up doing it wrong. Other kids, I don't plan to ignore you because you tend to get a little emotional and you don't control your emotions, and they usually go, you know what, you're right. You're right. I get a little excitable. You know, Sammy, you can't let Sammy talk about chess because he'll like go crazy. So you gotta jump on that one. That's jokes. See, I told you I use jokes because Sammy actually is like really quiet, and even if he does talk about chess, he's not going to go all crazy. Parent communication, and then this is where I want to sell it to you teachers. Please do not use this as a last resort of communication of, I've tried everything, I need your help. That's not going to work. Share with the parents right away. Like if you notice something right away, and I like, ooh, they're going to have trouble in my class. No. Like I was in the middle of going over my expectations, and I was trying to make it fun and interesting and motivational, and they were kind of talking over me, and we got into a little bit of a disagreement about how that's going to work. I'm just letting you know I'm going to keep trying. Like I'm going to really, really, really help so-and-so figure out how to work with adults when they're going over something that's really important and how they cannot appear to be disruptive during it. Like say it that way, because then the parent's like, oh, so-and-so talked to me. Oh, no, am I in trouble? Well, no, they were just saying how they're going to really stick with you and they're really going to have goals for how to help you get better at this. And and I know what's going on in the kid's mind. They're in trouble, but they're still like, oh crap, this teacher's not going to let this go, are they? But notice it's not in a, so next time it's going to be a referral. It's in a, they're going to keep coming after you, and they're going to keep doing it until it works. Parents really are supportive. I'm raising 3 kids. Sometimes my kids do things wrong. I need to know sometimes so I can be supportive and help. It really, it's not about punishment and getting, help to be another bad guy. It's about working together toward a common goal of improving the student's chances of having success in classroom management. That's what it's about. Be proactive, not reactive. If we're reactive all the time, the kids they're gonna push our buttons and watch us react. They're gonna have a lot of fun doing it too. And sometimes it works. Sometimes they do. All right, so I kind of went on long there. This is where I had a planned break anyway, because I'm at the end of my first hour, so that's technically the end of session 5. So next, what I want to do, and by the way, the goal of that, the purpose of that, and tell kids this, just like I'm telling you, the purpose of that was to show you how I went over my expectations of this presentation and the book and how to use it the same way I would to the students, giving rationale. Give students rationale. I know you're afraid, but then they're going to ask why. Why don't you let me get a drink? I explain to kids why I don't let them get a drink. I don't let you go get a drink because then you're going to miss the most important part of the lesson. Or why I did give you a pass is I knew that I wasn't going to get to that part of the lesson yet, and I would rather you have gone to the bathroom so you can sit and actually think, because we all know if you're sitting there worrying about not trying to pee your pants, it's really hard to learn. So give them the rationale of why you use passes and why you don't use passes. Why don't I help you on the test? I tell the kids why I don't. I don't just say, no, I'm not helping you. I explain exactly why. So that's that. Anyway, so what's next is now I'm going to have us practice using Champs and Achieve, and I have some filled out ones that you can look at. You're going to launch your classroom management weeks 1 through 4. And I truly mean that. It takes 4 weeks to launch a good classroom management plan, because you've got to really, you have not yet thought about every area you use it. Like, for instance, I was talking to Lamont, and that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I need to have a classroom management plan for test days. Because I was telling him what I told you guys about how I don't help students and stuff. I haven't put that on my classroom management plan. I need to do that. So it takes a while. Welcome your students every day. All right. I love that teachers are in the hallways. Now, don't just have conversations with each other, have the conversations with the kids too. That's really welcome. This, I cannot emphasize this one enough. Build student belief in you and your class. Okay? It's got to happen. And then you're going to build your belief in your students. I'm going to show you, these are actually, they are videos, but they're more about podcasts. They originally were not. And I'm going to show you those. So that's going to be next. So we're going to have a short break, and then we're going to come back and we will have our final session where we get to actually practice using Champs and Achieve, and then listen to a few more videos. And I'm going to stop the video and we'll call that session 5. Come on. Oh, wait, I know what I had to do. Here's the slideshow. Here.